One of the most powerful things that you can do to help your students practice yoga asana safely and prevent injury is to understand this concept of herd mentality. As a yoga teacher, the very last thing that I want is for one of my students to get injured while I'm teaching them. And you probably feel the same way. You're probably implementing techniques already that help with injury prevention, such as offering different modifications and variations, telling people to listen to their bodies. But the reality is that micromanaging however many students you have in front of you is just not sustainable, it's not realistic, and you are never going to be able to make sure that you offer the right thing for every single person that is in front of you. Now, there is one very, very powerful foundation to making sure that your students practice yoga safely, and that is understanding the concept of herd mentality. What is herd mentality? Well, herd mentality is the tendency for people within a group setting to conform, to see what each other is doing, and then to just do the same thing without any type of consideration of whether it's right or wrong. That is herd mentality. Now, we see this in a yoga class all the time. And you can say to someone, listen to your body, do what's right for you until you are blue in the face. But as you know, as a teacher, there are a lot of people that just will not do that. And you know why? It's because of herd mentality. Now, this comes from a biological survival standpoint, an adaptation, where in order for us to survive, we needed to have a pack. We need to fit in with the pack. We need to move and do what the pack is doing. Now, this is, as I said, a biological adaptation that is about survival. Now, let me ask you this. Is a yoga class about survival? No, it's not. It's not about surviving, it's about thriving. And that's why, as a yoga teacher, one of the most powerful things that you can do to help your students practice yoga asana safely and prevent injury is to understand this concept of herd mentality. Because when you do, you can start to see it play out. And you can start to speak to that to people. You can start to bring awareness to that. Now, the other part of herd mentality that is really important for us to know and consider and see is the tendency for the people in the group, which is the class, not only to follow the herd, which is the class, but to also follow the pack leader. And who's the pack leader in this yoga setting? It's you. It's you as a yoga teacher. So you've got two things playing out there. You've got herd mentality, which is I'm going to follow what everyone else is doing because I need to do that in order to survive. And then you've got I'm going to follow exactly what the teacher is doing because I need to do that because the teacher is the guide. They're the ones that are in charge. They're the ones that are the senior and the authority figure, and they're going to keep me safe. So again, I survive. We don't need to act in a way in our yoga practice from a place of survival. We want our students to thrive. So when you understand this concept and this tendency of herd mentality, you can start to see it playing out. So you can say to someone to listen to your body and to do what's right for you until you're blue in the face. But the reality is that herd mentality tendency takes over, and looking to the authority figure, you as the teacher, that takes over. Those things take over from a biological perspective. But we are trying to evolve. We are trying to really thrive, not just survive in our yoga practice. So as a yoga teacher, for you to bring awareness to these tendencies is incredibly powerful. And then you don't have to micromanage and provide 1,000 different variations for people, because instead you teach with the precedence that people are becoming aware, because you're bringing awareness as well for them to understand that herd mentality tendency plays out for almost everyone that comes into the practice. Now, you can say things like, notice if you see someone doing something beside you and you start to think that their variation is superior to yours. Notice if you see what I'm doing and you think that my variation is superior to yours. Find a variation that holds value for you. This word, value, valuable, should be sprinkled throughout your teaching as much as you possibly can, because this concept of what's valuable to that individual person, that resonates, that hits home on a different level. So understanding herd mentality, firstly. Witnessing, seeing it as you teach, secondly. And third, finally, changing your languaging to begin to bring awareness to this tendency for your students. Talk about it, explain it, get them to contemplate it, get them to reflect on it, see where it's showing up for them, and then action the counteraction to that, which is observe where the value sits for you. The value might sit in this variation. The value might sit in this variation. So when we present our students with understanding, first of all, this tendency towards herd mentality and to follow the pack and to follow the pack leader, they can observe their behaviors, and then they can also coincide that with considering what is valuable for them. Then with those two things combined, they start to make choices that are aligned with their needs, how they feel in that moment, on their mat, on that day, in that season. This is so, so important if you want to provide a sustainable yoga practice for your students that is also helping them get maximum benefits through the path of injury avoidance and safety within yoga asana.